let's just go straight into it. Let's go into the Ashtavakra Gita, which is it's the highest spiritual text. I mean, I'm not familiar with any other spiritual text that is higher than the Ashtavakra Gita, because the entire book is just it's just speaking from the highest level, which is when one is a jiva mukti, which is they're liberated while alive. Liberation while alive doesn't mean that there is the body that's alive and you are the body that's enlightened. No, that's not what liberation while living means. Liberation while living, a more accurate understanding of what liberation while living means, it just means that you're the self retaining the body appearance. That's what that means. You're the self and you're witnessing the appearance of the body. So there is no actual body that's alive. It's just a projection that's running. And you see the projection as just something that is impersonal. Yet, when you take yourself to be the body that's alive, you start taking things personally. So the entire text of the Ashtavakra Gita is just about being liberated while alive. Most of the verses is just explaining what it's like to be liberated while alive. Or that is to say, liberated while retaining the appearance of form. Okay. This doesn't mean that there is actual form. It just means you're witnessing an appearance of form. The appearance is empty. There's nothing there. It's like a projection. It's a dream. You see it as a dream. You don't see it as something physical. Because you don't see it as physical, we can't say that there's anything such as physicality. It's an illusion. It never existed as actual physicality. Okay. So you're just witnessing a form. All of the verses mostly speaks about the point of view of this person who is liberated. That's it. In fact, I found the Gita to be a little boring because it's literally saying the same thing over again in different ways in most of the verses, which isn't a bad thing because the verses help get you to make that click. What is that click? That click is really grasping what that means. Because the way that you're grasping it now or before is not really what it really is. So it'll help promote an awakening if you're able to read through these verses and interpret them in a good way, given how pure your mind is. What does that mean? It just means that when the mind is impure, reading from the perspective of a jiva mukti isn't really going to do much to you because it's speaking from a very high level. The best thing for you to engage in is something closer to your level right now to try to help elevate your awareness, elevate your capacity or your mind to be pure so that it can truly understand what these verses actually mean. Because the more aware you are, the more awakened you are to the deceiving world, the more you're able to truly grasp what these verses mean and what the experience actually is like. Because if you, right now, given that the mind is impure, read these verses, it's going to make your action seem like it's meaningless, without any purpose, doesn't matter, or will never matter. And you can see how, if someone does have an impure mind, you can see how this type of understanding will make them turn towards philosophies such as nihilism, or just become a fatalist, where they think that their actions don't matter, so it doesn't matter what they do. That type of conditioning will further put you in deeper ignorance. In other words, further deceive you into the truth of reality. It'll take you farther away from that truth. So you can see why a spiritual text that's extremely high level is going to make more sense to someone whose mind is already pure. So pure that there's a possibility for them to make a push where they become liberated. Or not just liberated, just to experience a glimpse of the self. Right? So these this highly spiritual texts, Ashtavakra Gita being the pinnacle of most of them, is really just to help propel someone towards liberation. But reading it from a point of view where the mind is really impure, it can help do more detriment than actual good. And that's only dependent on how pure the mind is. Because if the mind is mostly pure, but still hasn't really went into the deeper side of things, reading this knowledge can help. They can. You just have to make sure that you don't take them literally all the time. Don't take them literally. If you do take them literally, and you're taking it literally in the right way, in the precise way, then it will lead to liberation. Just want you guys to keep that in mind when we go through this Gita. Okay. You guys understand?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, good. I'll try to make this a little more interactive so it's not as boring, right? When I talk. Sometimes I know it's boring just hearing one person talk all the time. So I'll try to make it interactive, but let me just first go through what the Ashtavakra Gita is. I'll give some background on it, on the characters, and then we can go into the actual verses. Okay. So Ashtavakra means 8 bends. That's a Sanskrit meaning, or 8 deformities, 8 twists, right? There was a sage whose name was Ashtavakra, and he had deformities. So he looked like, if you guys see pictures of Ashtavakra, you'll see that his legs are turned like different directions. His elbows are messed up. His arms are like crooked. Right? It's just to explain 8 deformities. That's what Ashtavakra means. Irrespective of all these deformities, Ashtavakra was a sage. He was a sage that possessed true wisdom. Right? Ashtavakra was enlightened. He's a Jivamukti. This Gita is based around the dialogue of Ashtavakra and someone named King Janaka. Right? King Janaka was a ruler. He was a ruler of a kingdom. Huge empire. But he was different. Why was he different? Because he was a man of wisdom. Not the wisdom like Ashtavakra, but he inquired on the deepest truths. So he was a seeker. But one of the greatest kings ever, right, in Hindu history. I don't know if you guys have read the Ramayana or some other spiritual texts around King Janaka, right? Because King Janaka was the father of Sita, who is the wife of Rama, Lord Rama, right? I know you guys have heard the Yoga Vashishta. It's Vashishta who taught Rama, right? So he was a great king. But the thing about this king is, even though he had all of these material possessions, even though he had all the money, even though he had everything that anyone could ever ask for, he just wanted to seek for true wisdom. Right? So because he was a king, he had many friends, sages, scholars, and all of them would come to his court and they would discuss things about spirituality. They would discuss things about Vedanta, about true wisdom. So back then, in ancient times, it was all about debates. It was all about discussions. That was the thing. That is what people engaged in. Right? And they would do this around Vedanta, around true spiritual wisdom. Right? Now, Janaka, even though he was wise, he didn't possess the knowledge like Ashtavakra, because Ashtavakra is aligned. Right? He's a Jiva Mukti. He's only seeing the self. So Ashtavakra doesn't need to entertain any debates or anything. Okay? He comes to the court. And King Janaka starts asking him questions. Keep in mind, at this time, Ashtavakra was very young. He was like a teenager, or maybe a young adult. Who knows? He was very young, though. And Janaka, I don't know how old Janaka was, but he had to have been middle-aged, right? A little on the older side. Okay. So Ashtavakra went to this court, and then he started having a dialogue. A dialogue about what? A dialogue on the highest truth, which is the self, which is liberation, which is freedom. This is the knowledge of Vedanta. So in this discourse, Ashtavakra pointed out many things. Right? He pointed out that liberation is not attained through rituals or intellectual knowledge, but through direct realizing the direct realization of one's true self. Right? So the whole key of this teaching is to help one understand the difference between the self and the non-self. The non-self being the body, the mind, the senses. Everything that's changing, everything that's constantly changing. The key is just to understand the difference between both and to understand what is the truth. This is the entire dialogue of Ashtavakra Gita. And because this is the dialogue, there's many, many, many verses that just speaks from the perspective of a Jiva Mukti, because Ashtavakra is the one who's teaching it to Janaka. So in this case, it's the guru-disciple relationship. Guru-disciple relationship. And in this guru-disciple relationship, when we talk in terms of ancient India, the scriptures, this guru-disciple relationship is the enlightened teaching the seeker to become enlightened. Okay? And the seeker is usually enlightened in that same life. This is the guru-disciple relationship. The traditional relationship. And so you can see that this spiritual text, when it ends, just like any major spiritual text that ends, like the Bhagavad Gita, for example, when it ends, the seeker is enlightened. Okay. So this is just enough to tell you that this text is not meant for the ignorant. It's meant for the seeker who is about to realize the self, and not just once, permanently. This is why there's always a disclaimer that needs to be presented before these texts are taught to the students, so that they don't go and venture down a road of nihilism, which is one of the worst roads you could venture down. In this story, Janaka had a dream. This is one famous episode in the story. He had a dream, and he saw himself as a beggar, living in poverty, didn't have anything, could barely eat, starving. In that experience in the dream, it felt so real. It felt like he was the beggar who was begging for money, begging for food, just to survive. And then he wakes up and realizes that, wait, he was never a beggar. He's a king. He has everything. That epiphany led to a realization that Janaka wasn't the king. He wasn't the beggar, but he was that witness witnessing both. And that witness does not change. This is why Janaka is considered a true seeker. Because he's been inquiring for a long time. And he's just looking for the sage to come in and help push him so that he can realize truth. He's just waiting for that gentle push. And this is what the Gita is for. So bear that in mind. After each verse, we'll discuss discuss not just what it really means, but how you can actually apply that and what it means to your daily experience. Okay. Before we go into the verses, I want to see if you guys have any questions so far. Okay, maybe we can take turns reading it. So, do you guys have access to this Gita? I have to find access to. I don't think I have it right now. Hold on, let me check.
I was thinking, what about one of us shares the screen and we have it here on Discord so that everybody can read it, have it on the
Yeah,
screen simultaneously.
yeah, we could do that. Where should we access it?
Yeah, just a sec.
I think you had sent it, actually, right? You had sent it to the.
Yeah,
I just
I
forgot.
have.
It is in the announcements tab. I just downloaded it.
Announcements. Okay.
Do you guys see it?
Yeah, I see it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Okay. Okay. Who wants to read it first? When someone wants to read the first verse, we could just go in order.
I can read it if you want, Rovi.
Yeah, please.
Oh. So chapter 1, introduction on self-realization. Janaka asked, how can knowledge be acquired? How can liberation be attained? How is renunciation possible? Tell me this, O Lord.
Okay. This is just self-explanatory. There's nothing to decipher here. He's just asking Ashtavakra about the truth. What is the truth, and how can we produce that truth, and what does that truth mean? That's it. He's just asking really, 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 really deep questions. Let's go to 2.
I'm happy to read 2. Are we just doing one verse each? Is that the idea?
Yeah, that's okay. One verse each, I guess.
I'm happy to do 2 then.
Sure.
Ashtavakra replied, if you aspire after liberation, my child, shun the objects of the senses as poison and seek forgiveness, sincerity, kindness, contentment, and truth as nectar.
So you can see here that he's not immediately talking about liberation. He's just talking about what your qualities should be like in order to seek liberation. Okay. So he's saying, shun the objects of the senses as poison. Okay. You literally have to treat sense objects like poison. What is poison? Poison, you stay away from poison. So when you shun the sense objects, you're just making it seem as if you don't want it. It's not for you. Okay. It's poison. You stay away from it. So what is the nectar? What is the stuff that we really need to have, right? In order to really seek and aspire for liberation. You need to seek forgiveness, sincerity, kindness, contentment, and truth. What is forgiveness? Forgiveness means not harping over something. That's what forgiveness means. It's not harping over something. You know, I could forgive you for doing something bad to me in the past. I just don't harp on it. If you're not harping over it, then it's not affecting you. Like, no matter what anyone does, if you can forgive them, they don't affect you. You see how this is similar as shunning the objects of the senses. It's not affecting you, right? You're shunning it. It means that you're not attracting to it. If you attract to it, then guess what's going to happen? All different types of things. That is contradicting to liberation. If you're liberating yourself from something, then you can't be immersed in that something. Because if you're immersed in that something, that's called bondage. You're glued to it. To what? An illusion. And because you're so glued to it, you now believe that it's actually real. Like it's an actual thing. Like there's an actual something. You seek forgiveness. You're not harping over something. You're not affected by it. Sincerity. Sincerity. What about sincerity? Who thinks they can explain sincerity? Why sincerity a nectar? Why do we need to have sincerity in order to seek for liberation?
Because if you're insincere, then the efforts you make will be insincere and therefore won't be effective.
Yep. Well said. What else? Someone give me another example.
I believe if you are not sincere, it'll just be an intellectual game.
Okay. I see what you're saying. Fair. That's also one. Takes you closer to the truth. What else?
I think sincerity, I can relate it to the Yam Niyam of the Patanjali Yoga Sutra. It helps bring more oneness and purify the mind more.
Mm-hmm. Give me an example, though. Give me an example of sincerity that you need to have in order to seek for liberation. Give me like a real life example.
One of it would be truthfulness. Having truth.
Yeah.
Yeah, so having truthfulness help them helps accept things more, be more
Mm.
in
Mm.
be be more in sync and flow more through the happenings.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Because if we're not truthful, then what we're just trying to stick up for our own ego. We're preferring things to be a certain way and not something else. And so we're just perpetuating duality. We're just affirming the ego, right?
Mhm.
You're not truthful because there's some type of motive. What motive? Maybe you might not want someone to know the truth because it hurts them. So there's a motive. Maybe you don't want someone to know the truth because it can make them stressed out. It could backfire on them in some way. There's a motive behind you not being truthful. If you're more truthful, you're more accepting. Right? So that's a good way to put it, actually. More acceptance. If there's more acceptance, then you're satisfied no matter what the outcome is. It's not something that's affecting you. Why? Because you're seeking after liberation. You can't be affected by those things. You have to see them as an illusion. If it's an illusion, why harp over it so much? If you're harping over something, you're expecting something to be in a particular way. You're expecting a specific outcome. How is that going to liberate you when you're still expecting something in duality? How is that going to liberate you? You have to be sincere. Kindness. What about kindness? What about kindness? Why kindness for liberation? Why do you need to have kindness in order to seek liberation?
I think kindness diminishes division, Rory. So yeah, I think that's why it's
Diminishes division.
yeah.
Give me an example of diminishing the division.
So yeah, so when you treat another sentient being kindly, it's like as in you don't see it to be like a separate thing. So you don't have those, agendas when you're treating someone kindly. So yes.
So it's less selfish.
Ego conflict. Yeah.
Less selfish. And what happens when you're selfish? Why is that bad to be selfish in terms of seeking after liberation? Right? When I say why is that bad, I'm not saying that there's that I'm not saying that there's no good or bad, or that there is a good and a bad. I'm just saying that in terms of seeking for liberation, it's bad. In other words, it contradicts it, and because it contradicts it, it doesn't take you in that direction. That's what I mean by bad. So why is being selfish bad?
Because it reinforces the ego. As in, there's like this person who needs things fulfilled to be, content. So
Yes.
that's why it's not conducive to liberation.
So they're perpetuating the existence of the false self, of the jiva, which is still bondage. It's still maya. It's samsara. It's ignorance. So you have to be more kind. How can you treat someone like shit when you know that when you're seeking after liberation, which is to know that in truth there's actually just one? Why should you treat something else bad if there's just one? If there's just one, there's only kindness. There's only kindness. If there is no kindness, then you're deluded because you're contradicting yourself. And that contradiction is Maya. Okay. Contentment. Why contentment? Why contentment? Why you have to treat contentment as a nectar, as something that you need in order to aspire for liberation?
I think it's
Because if
acceptance
you're
of what is.
content,
Yeah. Go on, John.
sorry, if you're contented, then you are much less agitated, and also you can focus your full attention on liberation. If you're discontented, then you're going to focus a lot of attention on achieving worldly desires.
Exactly. Exactly. Dev, what were you going to say? Give me your example.
Yeah, I was just going to say acceptance of what is, like pertaining to a situation or the current unfoldment of life. You're just okay with whatever's happening.
Precisely. You're just accepting. Just accepting. Why do we need to accept? Because we're seeking after liberation. In liberation, there's full acceptance. So you have to be accepting in order to finally be fully accepted. And truth. When he says and truth, that just means to understand what liberation is. That's still at an intellectual level, right? These are all the things that you have to embody in order to seek liberation. If you don't embody these qualities, you're far away from it, even though it is always there. It's just that you're not conscious of it. And this is the point of these teachings. Okay? That's verse 2. Let's go to verse 3. Who wants to read this one?
I read, "You are neither earth, nor water, nor fire, nor air, nor ether. In order to attain liberation, know the self as the witness of all these and consciousness itself."
Okay. This is literally, he's telling you, Ashtavakra is telling you the truth. This is the truth. And because this is truth, then understand this and embody it. That's what this verse means. He's saying you're neither earth, nor water, nor fire, nor air, nor ether. If I am none of those things, then what the hell is it that I'm seeing? You literally have to contemplate on that every minute of the day. You have to know that none of that is you. Because who you are is a self that witnesses them. What is that self? It is neither earth, nor water, nor fire, nor air, nor ether. You have to understand that. Understand that. Understand that means applying it in your life. And always seeing that you are neither earth, nor water, nor fire, nor air, nor ether. You are not material. You are not even subtle. Because he goes even as deep as ether, which is just to explain space. Just space in general. Like the illusions of time and space. Just space. So you have to constantly embody the fact that you are not any of these things, but just the witness of them. So this is actually a very important verse. A very important verse. Because what this verse is saying is that you should always see in your experience that you are the self. And it needs to be continuously practiced. And if this is continuously practiced and you understand this verse, then what does that say about the reality that you're living in right now as a human being? How are you going to go about your day really seeing that that is actually false? Right? How are you going to go about your day seeing that that is actually false? You start to look at things differently. How do you look at things differently? Let's see if we can give some examples of how we could see things differently. According to this verse, you're neither air, nor water, nor fire, nor air, nor ether. You're the self. So how are we going to see that? You guys have examples? How can we see that is a fact? Not necessarily as a fact that it's being realized, but just to really embrace the meaning behind that. What are some ways you can live to embody that?
I guess, Rovi, you could say that anything made up of those elements, or combination of those elements, including the body and the outside world. So you kind of realize or know that it's not you, the real you. So you go about like having this distance or maintaining a sort of distance from it, knowing that you are kind of you are just a witness that's experiencing all these elements. So you have this detachment from the body and the world.
Okay. And give me an example of how you can live like that.
Equanimity, I think that's the right word. Equanimity, living.
Okay.
Yeah.
Give me an example of you doing something and embodying equanimity.
So maybe like just working, when you're working, knowing that it's all the elements at play that's being that's happening. So not really, getting agitated when things go wrong, or being extremely excited when things work out for you. So just
Okay.
having a sense of equanimity then. Yeah.
So you're composed.
Yes. Yes. Both.
You're composed. That's a great way to live. Composed. Composed when? All the time. All the time. You don't react. You don't react. There's no need to. You're perfectly calm. To be anything else means you're just hooked inside the dream. You're too hooked to it. You're too hypnotized by it. Because you're too hypnotized by it, you're making it feel like it's so real. Start becoming composed and see how much peace this gives you. Because it's that type of peace that you need to have in order to see that you are neither earth, nor water, nor fire, nor air, nor ether. Give me another example. How can we live by this knowledge that he's giving us in verse 3? Which is really a simple verse, very elementary in Vedanta. But it really gets advanced when you start to really understand what the hell he's saying. What's another example?
One more example could be, as explained by you, pain or any kind of discomfort that the body feels. So understanding that you are not the body, but just a witness to it, and not perceiving it as a physical substance that you are entangled into, but in reality just a witness to something that's not even there.
Okay, perfect. Give me an example of when you would actually see that, or just contemplate that you're not something that's physical, that you're not actually a entity or an actual person.
One of it that we recently experienced was cold. So while feeling the sensation of cold, contemplating on the truth that the body is not actually physical, made up of flesh and blood, and that you're not really this body that you perceive to be, but actually a witness to just something that's an empty appearance. You kind of separate yourself from the sensation of cold, and it really diminishes, and as you go deeper you don't actually even feel it.
Okay, for any person who just listened to that and who will hear this on the recording, contemplate on that. Contemplate on that. And if you contemplate it enough while there's cold, or while there's extreme heat, or while there's some type of discomfort in your life, see that diminish. Contemplate on that. See that diminish. You see how it literally happens. You literally don't feel cold or feel hot like you normally would when you're so immersed in the senses of believing that you were an actual physical body made up of flesh. As if that physical body is feeling pain. As if something inert can feel pain. Can something inert really feel pain? But pain as if it's an actual thing, such as pain. Nope, it can't. So then why does it? Because you're immersed in something that's not even there. And because whatever you're immersed in gives you some sense of what pain is, there's now pain. That's how immersed you are in it. As Sakshi said, try to separate yourself from those sensations. Contemplate on that while you're having these experiences and see how that is diminished if you contemplate hard and long enough. See that diminish. That's where you need to go. That is the type of experience you need to direct your attention towards, because it's coming closer to the realization that there's just the immaterial, formless self. Let's talk about one more example, since this is a very important verse. By the way, I don't know if we can go through every up to 15 verses. Let's try to do 10 or maybe less, if depending on time. Let's do one more example. How can we live by this knowledge according to verse 3?
I think our body is made up of these 5 elements. So we give too much importance to the body, like we wear nice clothes or use too many things to make it look perfect. But at the end of the day, it's gonna die someday. So we have to like not give too much credit to it.
Very, very, very good one. Very, very good one. That's a really good one. Not giving it too much credit. When you're giving it too much credit, you're fooled by it. You're being deceived. It's tricking you. That's just the nature of consciousness. It's just trying to trick you. Because the only way for you to know yourself as consciousness, you need to be tricked. If you're not tricked, then what is consciousness? What can be said about consciousness? So that's the beauty of the trickery. You can't see yourself as this person who wants fancy clothes or fancy things. See, the main point in this is you can't be a materialist. You can't succumb to materialism. That means two things. That means actually believing in something such as materialism, where you think that the world is physical and that the world is always purely objective, meaning it's always there, even when you're not looking at it. Right? You believe these things, you're a materialist. You believe there's actual physical things there. And when you leave those things there, they stay there because they're physical and it's always there. That's wrong. That's not how reality works. If you believe in that, you're being deceived. You're just ignorant. There's nothing wrong with it. You're just being deceived. Because eventually you'll come out of it. Eventually you'll wake up. And you'll realize it for yourself that that was false. There was no such thing as materialism. So you can't succumb to those type of philosophies. Materialism. You can't succumb to that. And also just being a materialist, being someone who's always wants the nicest things, the nicest house, the nicest cars, who wants a status so that they can buy all these fancy things. You can't be hypnotized by that, because if you're tricking yourself and believing that, oh, I need some this nice and this needs to be this nice and whatever, then you're just giving into the illusion of materialism. That there's actual things that's out there and that they remain there no matter where you are, and that they're always there. No, that's not how it works. That's not what actually, that's not true. False. That's the deception. That's the trickery. Don't succumb to materialism and don't be materialistic. It's that simple. Because if you're not materialistic, then guess what? We talked about the qualities before in verse 2. You're content. Right? You're satisfied. You're composed. Doesn't matter what you have. It's all good. How is that going to disturb your peace? See, that peace only gets disturbed because you're not believing things that are not actually there. And because you're not believing things that are not actually there, and now believe that it's actually there, you're now chasing all these things that exist there. Okay? You have to continuously abide in this knowledge, which verse 3 says. That's all the examples you can be said. You can literally live by those examples and see how you come to two, which is seeking for liberation. See how that starts to change. Your mind gets transformed. Transformed. It gets transparent. It becomes more accepting towards truth. And because it's more accepting towards truth, you start to experience the glimpses of the self. Let's go to verse 4. Who wants to read this one?
I can read it.
Mm-hmm.
If you detach yourself from the body and rest in intelligence, you will at once be happy, peaceful, and free from bondage.
Okay. He's saying you have to detach your awareness from the mind and rest in the self. That's it. And only when you do that, you're no longer in bondage. Because to be in bondage is to be glued to the mind. The mind is what projects the world. And if it projects the world and you somehow feel like you're stuck in a world, then that means that you're living in the mind. You're living in the projection. You're glued. He's saying detach it. Detach from it and see where real peace lies. See where real happiness lies. You can only see that when you're not in bondage, when you're not glued. Because when you're glued, then you're experiencing everything. You're experiencing so much stuff, you forget what true happiness is. Right? Isn't that the nature of the mind? You're just now distracted by so many things, you've forgotten who you truly are. That there is no other things. So what were you really getting distracted by? Contemplate on that. Contemplate on that. I'm saying that there is no actual things, yet you're going to continue to be distracted by those things. What does that mean? What does that mean? How can I be distracted if there's nothing actually there? Contemplate on that. That's verse 3. Contemplate on verse 3. And then if you contemplate on verse 3, what's he saying? Detach yourself from the mind. You've embraced all those qualities that you had in verse 2. You've embraced them so much that all you need to do is just detach yourself from the mind and see that there was only the self. Right? This doesn't mean that there was the mind and there was the self. That's not what it means. It means that you realize that the mind was actually the self. And that there was only the self. There was no mind. There was no many other things. It was just the self the entire time. Yet, you were deceived. Detach yourself from the mind and you see that truth that I just said. That's where real happiness is. That's where real peace is. That's where you're free. Any questions from this verse before we move to verse 5? Right. So these first couple of verses is really just him saying, him asking the question to Ashtavakra. Ashtavakra telling him that he needs to embody these qualities to seek after liberation. And once you really embody them, you start to detach yourself from the mind. What is the mind? The mind is projecting a world. It's projecting a reality. It's projecting this form that you hold yourself to be. And not because you hold yourself to be this way, you now believe that you're actually someone inside of a world. You're glued to an illusion that is not even there. Why is it not even there? Because it's actually empty. There's no such thing as materialism. That was an illusion. If it's empty, then it means it's not there. If it's not there, why should we continue to be deceived? Detach ourselves from the mind and see that it was never there. Okay, let's go to verse 5. Okay, who wants to read this one?
I'll read it.
Sure, go.
You do not belong to the Brahmana or any other caste or to any ashrama. You are not perceived by the eyes, unattached, formless, and witness. All are you. Be happy.
Wow. Okay. So now we're actually getting into what it's like to be detached from the mind. Okay. When you're detached from the mind, who is to say that I'm a Brahmin? Who is to say that I belong in a particular caste, in a particular place in society? Whether I'm a priest or I'm a pundit, right? Or if I'm working for the city in the government, trying to govern the way society works, or if I'm just a worker who's contributing to the entire structure of society, or if I'm a peasant, if I'm a farmer, what does any of that matter if I'm the self? What is all these different things? These are all what? It's just the status. It's just the role. He's saying you don't belong to any of those. Why? You are not perceived by the eyes. You're not this body that someone else is perceiving yourself to be. That's not you. No matter who looks at you in a specific way, that's not you. Who are you then? What is you? You is unattached, formless, and the witness. That is all you are. So he's telling you the truth right now as it stands. When you detach yourself from the mind, you see the truth as it stands. See, that's the truth right now. That's the truth right now. Right? Even if you consider yourself to be an educated person who has a well-respected job, right? If you see yourself like this, then how can you say that you're the witness? How can you say that you're always detached from it and that you're formless? How can you say that? The truth right now as it stands is that you're always that witness. Because you believe it differently, that becomes your reality. That's the reality you're holding on to. If you're holding on to that reality, then you're glued. You're hypnotized by it. Right? This is what the Gunas explain. Tamas, you're holding on something firmly. You're making it a solid. Tamas is deceiving because it's allowing you to believe in something such as materialism. Why should you believe in materialism if there's nothing that's really there? He's saying that you're not even the Brahmin. You're not any caste. Whoever judges you a specific way, that's not you. It doesn't matter. You're the witness. That's it. So be happy. Okay. So here's the thing. A lot of people reading this, they're not yet realized. They're not yet realized. So how is this going to help them? Right? Well, if the mind is pure to a certain degree, it's gonna say, okay, well, if I don't belong to a specific Brahmin, or I don't belong to a specific caste, or I don't have a specific society, specific status in society, then who is it that I actually am? I'm this witness. I'm formless. I'm detached. So what are the qualities that I need to have in order to become that witness, in order to see that I'm that witness? I need to start practicing in such a way that I believe that I'm not the body, I'm not the mind. And this is how you live. And if you live by that, you'll eventually come to the realization that you never had a status. You were always the witness, even right now, even when you're acting as if you have status and as if you're this actual person, you're always the witness. You're always the witness through it all. That's the truth of Vedanta, and that is what Ashtavakra is saying. Okay, he's saying you don't belong to any of them. You're always the witness, even right now. Even right now. So what does that mean? He's negating free will. He's negating free will. But somehow we perceive that we have will. What does that mean? If you're perceiving that you have will, that means you're in the illusion. That means you're being immersed in the illusion. Because that's how it operates. It gives you the capacity to have will. Or I should say, it gives you the capacity to feel as if you have will. Which is good, because if we didn't perceive it that way, then Maya wouldn't be that deceiving, right? It wouldn't be so convincing. But the self being infinite, it has to make it, just by the power, the infinite power that it has to be interpreted real, to be another way. It has to be so deceiving because it's infinitely powerful. It allows to deceive you so convincingly that you're completely ignorant and no longer questioning the world, which is the most of humanity right now. Now we could say that it's most of humanity, but at the end of the day, what is this verse saying? It's saying that you're not any of those things. You're just a witness. Let's go to verse 6. Who wants to read this one?
I can go, Rohit.
Sure.
Virtue and vice, pleasure and pain are of the mind, not of you. O all-pervading one, you are neither doer nor enjoyer. Verily, you are ever free.
Crazy. I haven't read any of these verses in so long. The last time I read these verses was back in years ago, maybe close to a decade ago. So a very long time. But you see how everything is like syncing up. He's literally telling you in the verse before that you're not a specific status. You're not a specific nationality. You're not a specific personality. You're not a specific person with specific qualities. You're just the witness. If you're just the witness, then how can you be a doer if the witness doesn't do anything? How if that's the case, how can you be the enjoyer? How can you be the enjoyer? If you're not the doer, you're not the enjoyer, then what is such thing as virtue, vice, pleasure, and pain? What the hell are those? Why do you care? What concern do you have over those? Virtue and vice, pleasure and pain. Dualities that people experience when they're immersed in something that's not even there. That's the trickery of all. Because no matter what is happening, you're always the non-doer. You're always the non-enjoyer. You are always free. Even right now. Even when you take yourself to be an individual, and you're being hurt, you are always free. See, this is a good thing. This verse is good to embody, because if you practice this, even when you're immersed in Maya, if you practice this, it'll help detach you from the illusion of Maya. It'll help detach you. You don't try to harp on or cling on to pleasure and pain, just like Sakshi said before when talking about separating yourself from sensations so you don't feel pain, like physical pain, such as cold or such as the heat. Right? Virtue and vice, pleasure and pain are the mind. They're only the mind. That mind is not you. We said it before. That mind is not you. You're not the water, you're not the air, you're not the ether, or whatever it is. You're not any of those. You're not a doer, you're not an enjoyer. You're the self. The self is the pervading one, because there's only the self. All these things that we believe that are out there in time and space, it's just an illusion. And even when it doesn't seem that way, there's only one pervading one. That's always pervading. But because there's only the self, and that's all there is, how can you say that it's pervading anything? It's just the word that we use to say that it's infinite. There's only it. So there's only it, then there's really no we need to say that it's infinite. Right? You only tend to say these things when there's something to compare to, something to compare it against. So in this verse, it's saying, who cares about virtue? Who cares about vice? Who cares about pleasure? Who cares about pain? That's how literally, if you're taking this at face value for someone who's liberated, then what you have to do is not give in to those things. Don't give in to virtue and vice, pleasure and pain. When I say don't give in to it, I'm not saying to not act it, because no matter what, there's going to be an action. I'm saying give it up inwardly. It doesn't matter to you, because no matter what, you're the self. Right? You're the self. If you go in with this mentality, then guess what? It doesn't mean that you're not going to be virtuous. Right? Doesn't mean that. Because naturally what happens is, because you're embracing all those qualities that Ashtavakra said, such as contentment, being accepting, being composed, what else? I forgot. Those other qualities that he was talking about. When you start embodying those, then you're automatically going to be virtuous. But eventually you'll have to be detached from virtue. When you're detached from virtue, then what the hell, who cares about virtue when there's just you? When I say who cares about virtue, you're just accepting everything. You're not looking at virtue as if it's actually real. You're just accepting everything as yourself. So how can you bring up virtue? How can you bring up vice when there is just you? Right? We only tend to cling on to these things because we consider ourselves to be limited. And if we're limited, we can go towards virtue or we can go towards vice. And it'll take you in a specific direction. Ashtavakra is saying, embody the qualities that you seek for liberation and become virtuous. Become loving, become kind, become compassionate. Right? Kindness, one of those qualities. And once you're there, you can now seek after liberation by detaching yourself from it. Seeing that you're not a specific status, you're not a specific race, you don't have a specific nationality, you're not from a specific country, right? That you're not actually a worker or an officiant or a leader. You're not none of those. You're just the witness. So what is virtue, vice, pleasure, and pain? If there's just you. If there's just you, how can you be a doer? How can you be an enjoyer? Enjoying what? There's just you. What is there to enjoy? There's just you. Let's go to the next verse. Who wants to read this one?
I can read this one.
Yes.
You are the one seer of all and really ever free. Verily, this alone is your bondage, that you see the seer as other than such.
Now he's just explaining who you are and why you don't see it that way. That's all he's saying. He's saying that there's just you. If there's just you, then how can you ever be locked up? How can you feel as if you're glued somewhere? As if someone is locking you up in a cage? You're free. You're always free. So if you don't see yourself as a seer and see yourself as something different amongst other different things, then that alone is your bondage. That alone is your bondage. So if that's the case, then what does that mean? We have to try to see the world differently. Right? What was that? I think that was verse 3, right? Verse 3, when he talked about not being earth, water, ether, what have you. You have to literally live by that wisdom. If you see it differently, then you're in bondage. What are you going to do about it? I mean, there's only two options. You give into it and just be ignorant and let the ongoing cycles of samsara keep perpetuating, or you try to break free from it. What are you going to choose? Okay, let's go to verse 8.
I can read.
Mm-hmm.
Do you who have been bitten by the great black serpent of the egoism, I am the doer, drink the nectar of the faith, I am not the doer, and be happy.
Okay. This is a very important one to discuss, because this is one of those verses that can lead to nihilism if you take it the wrong way. Okay, if you take it the wrong way. Let's talk a little bit about will. Okay. Now, someone could say all they want, that they're the self, while they're still completely attached to the illusion of will. It will not matter. They will continue to experience the illusion of will. And because you experience the illusion of will, you're always going to believe that you're the human body that's making the decisions. And it's your decisions that generate actions. Actions such as walking somewhere. Actions such as doing something. Actions such as making a specific decision about what you want to buy, or what you want to wear, or what you want to consume, or what you want to engage with, who you want to engage with. Right? That is that the giving meaning to that is referred to as agency. It's agency. You consider yourself to be the agent. Okay. If you consider yourself to be the agent, guess what? You've been bitten by the black serpent. What is that black serpent? It's egotism. That's it. It's the ego. It's the I am an individual experiencing a world out there. I am an individual experiencing something amongst other individuals. That is the ego. That is a thought of you being a specific somebody, doing a specific thing. Janaka is hearing this from Ashtavakra. And because Janaka is so purified, right? And spiritually qualified in his own right. Because I assure you, by the end of this dialogue between Ashtavakra and Janaka, Janaka will be enlightened permanently. Given that he's so already mentally purified, spiritually purified, just by hearing the statement, I am not the doer, will eventually help him get liberated. Because when he's experiencing his life, he's going to go about the day giving up the sense that he is actually a king and that he has actual responsibilities and that he's an actual somebody who has a specific status of being a ruler. He's going to eventually realize that's not him. He's not the doer. So what is he? He's the witness. And you see, if someone who's not as purified as Janaka, who had instant enlightenment after this dialogue, then guess what's going to happen when someone hears this? Oh, I don't care. I'll do this because at the end of the day, it's not me. Right? I'll hurt someone because who cares? It's not me. I'll fight someone because who cares? It's not me. I'll steal from someone because who cares? It's not me. This is nihilism. You see, and the beings who engage in that behavior, which by the way could be a lot of followers who are into neo-Advaita, right? Into this new movement, relatively new movement, referred to as neo-Advaita, where who cares? I'm the self. See, they're so hypnotized, so selfish, and so far away from the truth that they'll act like this while they're foolishly attached to the mind. And guess what happens when you're completely immersed in a mind, especially when there's happenings that seem to contradict the truth of there being only the self, which is to love. Guess what happens? Those things perpetuate or generate further consequences that end up being unfavorable, full of discomfort, which causes someone to suffer. So these types of philosophies, these types of movements will only do more harm than good. Now, it's not to say that it wasn't there for a reason, because everything is there for a reason. That's the beauty of it. But because you're so immersed in it, you have to eventually become attracted to something that embodies virtuous qualities. Because it's those type of qualities that gets you the glimpses of the self when you're detached from the mind. Okay. Always believe that you're not the doer, but continue to do what you need to do. Continue to follow being compassionate. Continue following your dharma. Continue following your responsibilities. Continue doing what your role is best suited to do. Continue doing those things, but always inwardly believe that you are not the one who's doing it. Because who is the truth of you? You're the self. Be happy. Why are you happy? Because you're content. Why are you content? Because you've accepted everything. Why have you accepted everything? Because there's just you. Emulate these characteristics. When you emulate these the right way, you build up equanimity, you build up dispassion. You build up the qualities needed to eventually experience your own self. Let's go to the next verse.
This ninth verse.
Oh, is it cut off?
Yeah, one page is missing. It's page number 7.
Okay.
This is page number 9.
Yeah, it goes to 11. Okay. So what verse we're on? Was it 9 or 8?
We were on 8th.
Okay, so it's 9. 9 now?
Yeah, but I'll have to find something else.
Yeah, let me.
because
I think I
this-
have it up already, Div. So let's read it. Let me see if this
Yeah. Okay.
verse 1 point. Oh wow, this is okay. So I guess the same thing, but it's just different. Okay, so this one, verse 8 was the thought, I am the doer is the bite of the poisonous snake. To know I do nothing is the wisdom of faith. Be happy. So that's same message, just different wording. So it's okay. Generally, all these translations, they're usually accurate. It's just, they're just saying it in different ways. So, okay. So 1.9, it says, a single understanding. I am the one awareness. Consumes all suffering in the fire of an instant. Be happy. Ooh, okay. So this is a very profound verse. He's saying a single understanding, I am the one awareness, consumes all suffering in the fire of an instant, in a blaze, in a rush. When you rest as the self, you know that you are the self. Who is it? Who is it that knows? The witness. The witness knows. Why? Because it's seeing the projection of a mind run, and it's seeing the appearance of the body move. Now, the appearance of the body moving is not an actual body that's moving. It's not seen the way ignorant people see it. Ignorant people see an actual physical body move through time and space, right? Move across the street, travel downtown. That's how the ignorant perceive Maya. Someone who's resting in itself doesn't perceive it that way. They see it as a running projection, as an appearance. That's how they see it as. It's empty. Why is it empty? Because there's just you, but somehow you're seeing the appearance. You're witnessing it. Because you're witnessing it and you're not giving into the illusion of what it can give, and you see the truth of it, you know. That's it. That's all that can be said. Don't try to harp over this logically. Like, who is it that knows? How does it know? Like, is it the mind knowing? Is it self knowing? Who cares? You're the self and you know. That's it. That's the single understanding. That's the only understanding. Whatever the body does, no matter what it is, it doesn't matter. There's only one understanding when that's happening. You are the self. That's literally it. So if you're the self, who is it that's doing something? How can you conceive or perceive or experience being someone who's doing something? If you don't perceive yourself being someone who's doing something, then there's no will. You're not using volition. There's no effort. You've given it up. What is effort? There's not even a single understanding of what effort is, because you're just the self. You're just the actionless self. There's nothing moving. How? Because you're seeing the appearance run on your own self, in your own self. You can't point it. It's not outside, it's not inside. Why is that? You just know. Don't think about it logically. Thinking about logically, oh, is it inside? Is it outside? What does that mean? That doesn't make sense. No. Don't think about it logically. It's useless. Embody the qualities. Seek after liberation and see this truth for yourselves. See what it means to literally see the moving appearance while there's just you. So how can something actually be something? Right? If it's all just empty. If there's just you. That's the single understanding. I am the one awareness. And because you hold that understanding and that's all there is, how can you suffer? How can you suffer? Who is it that suffers? Who is it that suffers? Is it the self? Or is it the body? Right? So it consumes all suffering. In a blaze meaning at once. Oh, there's the realization. Boom, right there. Now there's just that single understanding. Any questions there before we move on to verse 10? Okay, let's make 10 more interactive. I'm gonna say this verse, and someone take a stab at telling me what this verse means. You are unbounded awareness, bliss, supreme bliss, in which the universe appears like a mirage of a snake in a rope. Be happy. Who wants to take a stab? What does that mean? Let's talk about the second line. What does it mean when we say the universe appears like a mirage of a snake in a rope? What does that mean?
It's the seeing something, projecting something onto something which isn't there.
Precisely. So what does that mean in terms, like, when we talk about the snake in a rope? What does that mean then? If we take the snake in a rope example.
So when you see the rope, you think it's a snake, but it's not a snake, and you eventually see it's a rope. So when you see the universe, you think there's a world there, but there isn't a world there. You're projecting a world onto what you're seeing.
Precisely. And if that's the case, then what does that first line mean? What does that say? It says that what? You are unbounded awareness. Unbounded. See, he used the word unbounded here, right? Because he talks about the universe appearing like a mirage. So when we try to think about what the universe is, we believe that it's some there's space that's out there, deep space, and that there's planets, right? And then some planets and stars are light years away from you. And it just goes on. It's like it's never ending. Planets upon stars upon stars, different galaxies, different clusters, right? Now, I think right now it stands that there's approximately 2 trillion galaxies in this observable universe. I think that's like what we're saying right now, given our current state in science. So when people read these things, they're just like, okay, there's an objective universe out there, and the universe is always going out there. And if you keep traveling in space, you're going to keep going out in space and keep going deeper in space and seeing different planets, different stars, different systems. Right? So Ashtavakra is saying that your unbounded awareness. There's actually no thing such as a universe that's out there, that which you're an actual part of. You're just unbounded awareness. Unbounded means it's not constricted. It's not limited. There's no disruptions. It's just that. Unbounded awareness. Does that mean awareness is pervading through the universe? Does that mean that awareness pervading out there, like there's actual time and space? Does that mean I can say that consciousness is this tree 3 feet away from me? That's an illusion. That's a premature way of understanding consciousness. There is just your one unbounded awareness. That's it. The awareness you hold right now, that's it. That's all there is. Forget about other people's awareness as if those awareness exist out there inside other people. No, there's just that one awareness you're holding out right now. That's all there is. That's all there is. If that's all there is, then what is this universe? What can we say about an actual universe? Right? It's a mirage. It's not really there. Just like John said, there's a rope, but you see a snake. It's not a snake. It's not the universe. Okay, let's go to 11. I'll say the verse, and then maybe someone could help answer. I think it's kind of getting in the right sort of like a standstill, where it's just going to go through repetitively different verses, essentially the same message. Okay, so it says, "It is true what they say. You are not what you think. If you think you are bound, you are bound. If you think you are free, you are free. Okay. Who wants to take a stab at that one? All right, we kind of briefly mentioned this before, didn't we? If you think you are bound, you're bound. If you believe that you're bound, right?
Yeah.
So who is it that's thinking? Who thinks?
The mind, the jiva.
The jiva, yes. The mind, the jiva. Synonymous.
Yes.
It thinks. And it's saying, you are not what you think. So what does that mean, Bikram? You are not what you think.
Yeah. Yes. I think it means because reality is subjective and you project whatever you think. So the projection of, even thinking that you're not free is actually making that reality true for you. And if you think you are free, you become free. So yeah.
That's it. You hit the nail on the head. That's it. That's all this verse is saying. That's all this verse is saying. You are not what you think. You believe you're the body. That's not you. If you think you're the body, then you're the body. If you think you are free, then you're free. Obviously, when he says, if you think you are free, you are free. This thinking you are free means that you're the self. So there's really no thinking. Right? Let's keep that in mind when you're reading the verse. It's not like you actually think. What he's saying in this line is, when you're free, you're free. Okay? When you're the self, you're the self. There's no thinking that you're the body. There's no being the body. And there's a difference between being the self and then being the body while thinking you're not the body. What's the difference there? So someone tell me, what's the difference there? What's the difference between those two experiences?
Rovi, could you say that again?
I said,
Would that be okay?
yeah, of course. I said, if you're the self, you're the self. There's a difference between being the self and then being the body that thinks that it's the self. You see, what's the crucial difference there between those two experiences? The difference is one's attached and one's not. That's the difference. One's attached and one's not. Right? So there's a difference of being the self and only experiencing the self, and then being the body who believes that it's a self. So when he says, if you think you are free, he's not literally saying that you think when you are the self. He's saying, when you're the self, there is no thinking. You're just free. Because when you think, it's delusion. When you think, you now believe that you're the doer. Right? When you think, you now believe that you are the enjoyer. When you think, you believe that you're the one suffering. When you think, you believe that there's things outside of you, such as the universe. He's telling you, you are not what you think. He's telling you that you are not the body. Why? He said it before in the preceding verses. He said, you're the self. You're the witness. Even right now. Even when you believe yourself to be a body that's suffering, you're the witness. You're that self. Even right there in that moment. Okay, verse 12, it says, you are the self, the solitary witness. You are perfect, all-pervading one. You are free, desireless, forever still. The universe is but a seeming in you. Let me reread that last one. The universe is but a seeming in you. Okay. You basically said everything that we were talking about. For the self, you're not the doer and you're not the enjoyer. How is it that you can have desire? Who has desires? Is the doer, the enjoyer. Right? If there's a desire to do something, you enjoy something. If there's a desire to get something, you do something. You're the doer, you're the enjoyer. There's no desires. There's no such thing as a doer and enjoyer. He's saying you are the self, the solitary witness. You are perfect, all-pervading, one. You are free forever still. The universe is but a seeming in you. That last line just means the universe is just an appearance in you. You being the self. In other words, there is a thought superimposed on your awareness. And that thought is just a thought about a world awareness. It's an imaginary thought. It's a dream. It's a generated projection. It's not really there. It's empty. It's a mirage. There is no such thing as physicality. He's saying, that's you right now. If you think otherwise, you're bound because that's what you believe. But if that's not what you believe and that's not what you see, then you're free. I think we can get 15 verses in this call. Let's go to 13. All right, well, we're almost done. It says, meditate on this, : I am awareness alone, unity itself. Give up the idea that you are a person, that there is within and without. All the preceding verses is basically trying to get you to meditate on them. Because if you really take it at face value, then you'll work on it practically to come closer to that actual realization, which means that there needs to be some effort involved. Okay? So now it's saying, use that effort. And now you use it so much. Now it's saying, just meditate on this now. You are that awareness alone, unity itself. Give up the idea that you are a separate or a person, and that there is a within and without. Okay? If you keep believing that you're the person, even after this call, even when I said that you are not a person, it just means that there's a conditioning, there's a force, there's a samskara, there's a deep impression for your consciousness to be glued in that false knowledge. And that's why you're experiencing it. There needs to be some type of effort involved in order for you to break away from that false experience. Because in that experience, you're being deceived. So there needs to be some type of effort to purify the mind. Like Ashtavakra said, embody all those qualities. Seek for liberation. Become detached from the mind and see that you are just awareness alone. So he's saying, meditate on this. Meditate on this. Even when you're doing your daily activities, meditate on it. Give up the idea that you're an actual person and that there's things separate from you. And that there's actually within and without, as if you're actually within something or without something. Who could be within and without when there's just that one awareness? What the hell is within and without if there's just some awareness? Meditate on it. No matter what you're doing, meditate on it. Constantly. You're only doing it constantly because you don't see it. You're trying to turn away from the deception. You've embodied all these qualities. You're starting to detach from the mind, so you're meditating on something in hopes that you become detached. There needs to be some type of effort there to break the conditioning that's keeping your attention glued on a false world, on a world that's actually there, as if there's a universe, as if there's a snake when there's actually a rope. Meditate on I am awareness alone. Give up the idea that you're a person. Give up that there's something within and without. There's just you. Meditate on that. Let's go to 14. You have long been bound thinking, : I am a person. Let the knowledge, : I am awareness alone, be the sword that frees you. Okay. Okay, what do you guys think that is? Pretty much the same message, but let's hear it from someone. Someone want to explain this first?
Well, I can't actually see the text, but I'm just think that, typically you go around all day thinking as though you're a person, acting as though you're a person, making decisions as though you're a person, relating to others as though you're a person. And the idea is that that's wrong, and you need to remember that it's wrong. And that you are, yeah.
No, keep going.
Well, I was just going to say that the two parts. So the first part is remembering that it's wrong, it's incorrect, and the second part is remembering the positive side of it is what you actually are is this unbounded awareness.
Perfect. Any questions there? Okay. He's telling you the same thing over again. Just get rid of being this person. Get rid of the idea or the belief that you are actually this person. You keep believing in that, then what does that mean? You're going to keep believing in it. That's samsara. That's what Hinduism means when they say samsara. It just means your attention is glued on something, and you're making it seem as if there is actually something. That's what samsara is saying. Okay. Some people don't even know that. Some people believe that they're you're in there in samsara, but they don't understand that it's actually not there. They believe it. They actually believe in it. When someone says samsara, they believe that this world is actually real. That's how far in the illusion they are. Give up that idea. Literally, just give it up. Stop believing in it. It's that simple. Right? And to really stop believing in it, you have to not believe in it. So much so that you're not giving in to good or bad, or pain and pleasure. Because so long as you're attracting something, even if you're saying that, you're trying to give up the idea that you're actually a person, let's do whatever I want, let's do whatever you want, but you're still clinging to some outcome, then you're just fooling yourself. When you give up this idea, you have to give it up all. If you only give up some, you're fooling yourself. You have to give up everything. Again, this is a renunciation at the mind. It's an inward renunciation. It's not an outward renunciation. We're not saying that you should quit your job, or that you should move somewhere, or you should do this, you should do that. No, it's an inward renunciation. It doesn't matter what you do. Why? Because you're the self. That's the truth. You're the self. Who cares what is happening in the projection? Who cares about how it's running? Who cares about the consequences? Who cares about the results? If you really understand what this means, then you'll start to act in such a way where you're accepting, just like the qualities we mentioned before. You naturally become kind. Because there's no disturbances. There's less disturbances. There's less disturbances. You're more peace. Stop thinking you're the person. Let the knowledge I am awareness alone be the sword that frees you. It's telling you the knowledge. It's telling you that you're the self. That is the knowledge. Now experience this knowledge directly. That is the realization. How do you come to that realization? Keep firm on the knowledge that there is just you. If you really remain firm there, then you're going to start to detach from the mind. You start to develop this passion, develop equanimity, develop a pure mind, a pure sattvic mind. Until there's pure sattva, until the mind is completely transparent, you can't label it as a mind anymore. There is just you. When there's self-realization, there's all this talk by many people saying, oh, it reflects on the mind. Oh, it does this. Or it's all ignorant people. When the mind is purely sattva, it's the self. What is the mind? The mind is illusion. It's never there. It's non-existent. There's just the self. Why are we speaking about a self and a mind? As if there's two things. It's just the self. Who cares about what you're seeing in the projection? There's just you. You don't need to introduce the mind when you're in this experience. You don't. It's unnecessary. Because there's just you. If you want to say that the projection running is the mind, go for it. It doesn't change the fact that there's just you. That's the truth. Okay, last verse for this day. You are now and forever free, luminous, transparent, still. The practice of meditation keeps one in bondage. Ooh. Please, someone, anyone, do not misinterpret this verse. Do not misinterpret it. Because that could be a huge detriment. You think you're always free. Go ahead.
I would understand it this way, Rovi. I think so. Just in terms of meditation, it's like a means, but not an end in itself. So yeah, I think and rest of the verse is, I guess, pretty self-explanatory, where it says
exactly. Yeah, precisely, because it's speaking from the perspective of the Jivan Mukti. It's speaking from the perspective where the one who's resting in the self is the self, and there's nothing that you can say other than that there's just the self alone. There's nothing else you could say. You can't say that there are others. There's just the self. So if there's just the self, what is the practice of meditation? The practice of meditation is just it's keeping you in bondage. Right? Because you're still practicing. You're still practicing something in order to reveal something. Okay? Because at the end of the day, meditation is just about making the mind one-pointed so that it's one-pointed enough to experience the self. So meditation will always be a precursor or a preliminary occurrence before self-realization. You have to go towards that direction. You have to learn how to meditate. If you don't know how to meditate, you're not going to experience the self. And what is meditation? Meditation just means unbroken attention. It's stillness. It's unbroken. It doesn't drift in different directions. There's no disturbance. It's a continuous stream of oil. It doesn't pause. It doesn't halt. It doesn't change. It doesn't go from one to the next. There's no shift in attention. It's unbroken. It's completely still. That unbroken current is meditation. Practicing to get there, that's all bondage. It's all bondage. Even though something needs to be done while you're bondage for you to come out of bondage. And when you come out of bondage and realize that there's just a self, then what is the use of meditation? See, speaking from the perspective of a Jivan Mukti. So it's important to understand this. Doesn't mean that you shouldn't meditate. So long as you haven't realized the self, you should. Because meditation is the only way. You need to constantly be in meditation. How can you not if the self is perpetually unbroken? Right? If it's perpetually unbroken, then you eventually have to come to a specific place where you're always in meditation naturally. See, a Jivan Mukti is always in Sahaj Samadhi. Sahaj Samadhi is Samadhi that is natural. It's constant. It doesn't change. It doesn't go from one to the next. It's constant. It's permanent. It's effortless. See, these are all synonymous terms with the self because there's just a self. Sahaj Samadhi is the self. It is synonymous terms. It's natural. The self is natural. It's the most natural thing because there's only that thing. If you want to label it a thing. You are now forever free, luminous, transparent still. You're transparent. You're pure. There's only purity. There's only sattva. There is just the self. all this talk about the sattva, raja, tama, like all those different gunas, like what does it mean in terms of the self? Is the self pure sattva? As soon as it's pure sattva, there's just the self. Okay. Don't you have to go beyond the gunas? Who cares about going beyond the gunas? When it's pure sattva, you're just the self. Who cares about the gunas at that point? Gunas doesn't exist. There's just you. Of course, you know that there's just you because Ashtavakra said before that there's this single understanding that you are one pervasive awareness. That is the understanding. That is a single understanding. If you know that you are the one pervading awareness, then it must mean that there is some projection that you're witnessing, because there's constantly this talk in these verses about a witnesser. The witness. What is it that's witnessing? It's just the self witnessing itself. That's all it is. It's witnessing itself. How? Through a running projection, through the appearance, through the world appearance. When we say an appearance, or when you see verses out there, like from Vashishta that says an appearance, it just means that you're seeing yourself. But there's an appearance of a projection running. That projection is empty. It's not there. It's not an actual thing. It's a mirage. See, we could speak of the mirage because we're resting in a self and see the empty mirage projection running, knowing that it's not actually there, but yet you could see it there. That's the realization. That's the single understanding. When we speak of transparency, that is what it means. It's transparent. It's so transparent that it becomes empty, that it's a mirage. It's not actually there. It's still. What movement are we talking about? Does the movie move when you're watching it on TV? Does it actually move? Or is just the appearance of movement? Even while the appearance appears as if it's moving, it's always still. Just like the TV is always still. It's luminous. It's luminous because it shines as itself. There's only itself. If there's only itself, then you are now and forever free. Let's end it there. So if any of you guys have questions or around this Gita so far with regards to the first 15 verses.
Rovi, I do have a question which is kind of related to this. It's not, of course, completely.
No, that's
so
okay.
It's really about the witness consciousness, and which obviously what the Ashtavakra Gita is talking about.
Yeah.
And I was contemplating kind of like witness consciousness a few days ago, and I realized that for me there's a bit of a conflict with this, with an idea of meaningfulness. So, sort of as in the concept of living a kind of a meaningful life, that would be quite a well-known concept. And it seems to me that, witness consciousness is just in some kind of way completely colorless or completely clear, and maybe doesn't really incorporate that idea of, being meaningful. So I just wondered what your thoughts were on that. Do you think that meaningful in the sense that I mean it there is not really a valid concept? Is it in conflict with pure witness consciousness?
Yeah, very good question. Very good question. And your line of understanding is correct. Your line of understanding is correct, because when you're witness consciousness, right? When you're abiding as witness consciousness, which is to say you're abiding as the Atma, or you're abiding as Turiya, or you're abiding as Sakshi, or you're abiding as underlying consciousness. You could call it many different things. When you're abiding as that, we're only saying it's witness consciousness because Your consciousness witnessing. That's it. Now, the question is, what is it that you're witnessing? And the answer is, you're witnessing yourself. Why are you witnessing yourself? Because there's the knowledge that there's just you. But yet you can witness it. There's only you, but you could witness it. That's how crazy it is. It doesn't seem like it could actually be possible. If there's just you, how could you just witness just you? As witness consciousness, you do. You do. How do you do it? Okay, how do you do it? And we'll get to your question just a bit, right? Or the main message behind your question. Imagine a flashlight beaming, right? You have a flashlight, and all of a sudden you have light that springs out of the flashlight bulb, whatever, and it beams, and the beam hits a wall, and you're able to see light on a wall, right? So when your consciousness is very placed on a specific object, you can say that you're just attached to the wall, right? And because you're attached to a wall, you just see all these different objects on the wall. So you're like in a world, right? You're in your own world. You're seeing all these different things on the wall. That's all. That's it, if you want to put it that way. Being a witness consciousness is like holding yourself as the beam of light. It's literally like that. It's like being the actual beam of light, and you could see everything that's happening on the wall while you're always that beam of light. Imagine that. Imagine that. If you think about it logically, it might not make sense to you. It might not feel like it's valid or if it's possible. Which is why you really need to go with your intuition. You need to go with something that's much more subtle than just logic and rationality. Like something that's driven so much by thought, like a linear process. You have to sort of go into your imagination, into your mind, and contemplate and realize what that really means. What it really means to be that light and seeing something from that specific perspective. When you're seeing something in that specific perspective, you're seeing everything as just an empty appearance, because all you are is that light beam. Now, the light beam is made up of light. How can you say that light is something of substance, of something that's physical? You could say it's made up of photons, but at the end of the day, photons are in the quantum world. They make up subatomic particles, right? So when you're in that quantum world, then at that point, there's just a potential for you to be there. And that potential is what is really truth. So if we're resting as a specific beam of light, and let's just say that this is witness consciousness, not actual light that's out in space, it's just witness consciousness, and that's all you're seeing, then you wouldn't see this world as an actual physical thing, and you wouldn't see yourself as if you're something separate from that world. You'll see everything as just yourself, just like you were the light, the beam. So you're witnessing the projection, but that projection is just emanating from you. And when it's emanating, it's not emanating out there. There is no out there. You just see it as a unified screen. I think that's probably the best way to put it. You see it as a unified screen. So when you're there, how can you say that there's meaning? Right? How can you say that there's meaning in a sense that, in the sense of meaning, when you're actually living in the wall with no understanding of the light beam? Right? See, when you're in the wall and you're in, living in reality, you give meaning to things. You say that I have meaning to provide for my family. I have meaning to work and to make money and to gain success. I have meaning to love someone. Right? I give meaning to this world. I give meaning to what I'm experiencing. If you're resting as witness consciousness and you see that there's just you, that light beam, and that you're completely transparent, and that everything is unified, and that there's just you, how can you even raise the concept of meaning at that point? Right? Because in order to really embrace meaning, you need to perceive yourself as something that has meaning. So you're immediately affirming the existence of duality, because you're believing in it, because you're thinking that you are the person who has meaning for something. When you're resting as witness conscious, that's not it. That's not something you're experiencing. How can you even bring up the word meaning? That's a tool of the mind. The mind being the projection. The mind being the fact that you're on the wall. You're living on the wall. And you want to have meaning. So you want to raise this concept of meaning because you believe that there should be meaning. Right? You believe that there should be meaning. So witness consciousness, there could be none of that. You can't, there's no meaning when you're just seeing yourself. Right? How can there be meaning if you're just seeing that there's just one? Right? That's something to contemplate too. Because even having meaning to do something must be letting go of. Right? It doesn't mean to not have meaning. Because so if you're not realizing self right now, there should be meaning. You should act as if there's meaning. Because if you didn't act as if there's no meaning, then you wouldn't even be on this call. Well, what's the point? So you're giving something meaning, which is good, because to have meaning is to have devotion. And to have devotion, you can't experience a self without devotion. You only give up devotion when you're resting as a self, when you're resting as witness consciousness. Everything is removed. You let go of everything. Because in order to experience it, you have to let go of everything. It's only when you let go of everything that's what remains. That's it. So the question you ask is actually very is crucial and is in the midst of all those verses that we just read. Because most of them, he's saying, give up this idea that you're the person. If you're giving up this idea of you're the person, then you have to give up the idea that you're the person who has meaning. Because you're only bringing up meaning because you exist as a person. If you didn't exist as a person, then who would be attributed to the meaning? Like, who would have the meaning? Who would hold the meaning? Who would experience the meaning? Right? So you have to give up the notion that you are this individual and give up the notion that you have meaning. And if you've given it up, all of it, what's left? So witness consciousness. Did I help, John? Or?
Yes. Thanks, Ruby. Yes, very helpful.
Now that's easier said than done, which is why there should always be some type of meaning for something. And then when you go in that direction, you're going in a direction because you want something. When you start going in the direction that do you want something, if you're going in the right direction, then eventually you start letting go of things. Because that's where the direction pulls you. The funny thing is, you have to have some type of meaning and you have to have the urge or the devotion to go in that direction. But if you go down the direction and do things the right way, you eventually let go of things. You let go of the things that you had at first to enable you to go in the direction where you're finally resting somewhere where you've given up those very things. Again, keep this in mind because again, there's people who are going to read these verses, and if they don't understand it correctly, if they give in to what those verses literally mean, then how can they not live with nihilism? How can they not, move about this world as if nothing matters? Right? So that's why it's crucial to have the right understanding behind those verses. It doesn't mean that you should give up meaning. It doesn't mean that nothing matters. Okay? In truth, nothing matters only when you're resting as a self. Till then, things matter. Because again, this comes down to will. So long as you are believing that you are the individual, that you are the body, you will always feel as if you have will, as if you have the capacity to make decisions and go in a specific direction. Because no matter what, when those things happen, it will always feel that way. So rejecting it completely doesn't matter because you're still going to feel that way. So feel that way and do what you have to do, and eventually you'll go down the path where you give up the sense that you're the actual doer. But so long as you're the doer, it will always feel as if you're the doer. Because the belief, the power of consciousness is so strong, infinitely strong, that belief itself creates an actual world where it's now holding itself as such. Okay. Any other questions?
Can I ask one, Rovi, if I'm not
Yeah, of
taking
course. No. Go for it. And if anyone needs to drop, you don't have to stay. Feel free to drop. Everyone's got different schedules, so it's okay. Go ahead, Bikram.
Yes, Rovi. No, I was just thinking about the verse that we talked today about, like, if you think you're free, you are free, and not. I was just contemplating on that one. So when we think we are free, Rovi, like, let's say I have hundreds of thoughts in a day, and maybe the 90th or the 53rd thought is I am free. So so wouldn't that be a bit superficial, as in it's the jiva, having this random thought that I'm free, and then the very next thought is something of the world? So would it be right to say that you can't actually think I'm free, because the thinking of it would be an activity of the mind, but you have to let go of all the thoughts and
Yes.
be, just
Mm-hmm.
be.
Mm-hmm.
Would that
See,
be the
yeah, of course. But just remember that just being
Mm,
is not just not doing anything. Because
mm,
what happens when you don't do anything, right? If you're not engaged, sadhanas, spiritual practices, and effort is the only way you're able to let go, to fully let go. Ironically, it's telling
mm,
you to let go, so it seems contradictory that you're actually putting in effort if it's telling you to let go, right?
yes.
But the thing about it is, imagine someone who's truly is saying that they're letting go, and yet they're still operating through the mind. They're just not doing anything. They're not doing any spiritual efforts. They're not doing sadhanas. They're not doing anything. They're just succumbing to their fate. They're still glued to the body. It's as if it's as if they don't understand the truth of Advaita, and no one has even talked to them about it. So they're just completely lazy. They're just succumbing to Maya and life as an individual, right? So how is it that they're going to escape bondage? How is it that they're going to remove bondage, right?
Yes.
So there needs to be some type of effort involved. So at first, yes, if you think that you are not the body, then the act of thinking is basically affirming that you're the body, because it's the body that's thinking, right?
Yes. Yes.
Right. So it seems like it's never going to happen that way. But the thing is, when you start doing inquiry, at first you tell yourself that you're not the body. But the more this develops, the more you start to really contemplate and dive deep into the fact that you're not the body. It starts to become less intellectual. It starts to become less of a process where you're actually telling yourself that, as if like you're saying those words in your mind, like I am not the body. It's as if you start to give up that intellectual thought process, right? That
Yes.
itself is you're starting to let go, right? You're starting to let go, but now you're in the deepest recesses of the mind, telling yourself, even though it's not like a hard intellectual process, telling yourself that you're not the body. You're actually doing it inside the experience when you're deep inside the mind. So it's like you're turning inward. You're negating,
Yes.
right? So it's then you start to let go of this thought that you are the body. That's when you really start to let go of it. But initially, you had to come close to that deep understanding for you to let go of what you used initially, or the
Mm,
power of the will that you use initially to actually think about not being the jiva. You see?
mm. Okay. Got it. So kind of use it like an anchor.
Yes. Yes.
Who am I?
Yes. Exactly.
Yes. Got it. In the
Yes.
beginning. Yes. That
Yes.
makes.
Yes. Yes. It's like if you want to say a catalyst,
Mm, mm.
right? It's a means to promote something.
Got it.
But there has to be some type of promotion, because if there's no type of promotion, then you're just stuck. You're just no different than 90% of human, or 95 or whatever, that doesn't believe in the existence of the self, that believes that they're actually the body. So they do nothing. Right? So there has to be some type of effort involved, whether it's hearing it from someone and now trying to take that understanding to a deeper level, trying to contemplate on that wisdom so that you can actually see it for yourself. And when you start seeing it for yourself, you're able to let go of the thought process that enabled you to get there. And once you get there, you let go of those things. You go deeper. There's less things to hold on to at that point. And eventually, you stop thinking altogether. Because once you think, you affirm the existence of the thinker. The thinker is the ego. Who is it thinks? The body or the mind. It perceives something different. It perceives another thought. There's a split. There's a disturbance. That's duality. Any type of split, separation, breaking point, or a breakage, that's all duality, right? But when we speak about unity, oneness, one, all pervading, infinite, that's the self. Okay, any other questions? Okay, if there's no more questions, then maybe next week either someone raises a topic, or we can just continue with the Gita, and we'll maybe do verses like 16 to 30. We could try to do another 15, unless someone has a topic. We could do these courses on the Gita maybe bi-weekly or something, and hopefully maybe in a few months we can cover the entire thing. I think there's like, I don't remember how many chapters there were, but I don't think it's not a lot, but be like a couple hundred verses.